Hello, friends. Welcome to the podcast. I am Joe Jennings. This is my co-host, Christina Nichols.
Hi.
How's your day going? How are you today?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I think I'm fine. I'm better than I was 2 weeks ago because I quit my job.
Nice.
But I'm good.
That's good.
How are you?
I'm good. I've been having trouble sleeping. I think I'm excited with all the new stuff that's happening, but what's kind of annoying, and it's like a reverse, like, don't think about pink elephants. I need sleep so that I can perform good, but then I'm so excited for the next day. So I'll like leave my bed and go sleep on my couch just because I think changing the environment kind of like gets me out of whatever I'm like meandering in my mind about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting you say that because I also have not been sleeping well because I've been excited. Even though I'm like working out, I'm trying to make myself tired. At the end of the day, maybe I am tired. I get to bed and then I'm thinking about everything. So during my meditation yesterday, I had this thought, like, you need to be present in the moment. You have to find a way to like stay present in the now moment, this exact moment, in order for the thing I wanted to accomplish to happen. And I was struggling. And then I just kept forcing myself to like get back to present, like just right now, just right here. Fast forward, I'm going to bed. I should have been asleep. I put myself to bed really early. I did my little bedtime routine. I should have been ready. Still couldn't fall asleep. And I'm laying there and I kept hearing, moment, are you being present? No, you're probably thinking about all the other things that you shouldn't be thinking about right now. But right now is sleepy time. So present time should be sleepy time. And so then I did just that. I just kept taking my mind from whatever it was that it was talking about, all the noise chatter. I just kept saying, like, all these thoughts will be here tomorrow. We can think about all this later. All these thoughts will be here tomorrow. Focus on right now. What do you want right now? Sleep. Focus on sleep. So be present in sleep. Be present in the sleepiness. Allow yourself to feel the sleepiness. Every time I started to wander and think about something, I was, no, this is sleepy time. It was almost like taking a toddler and putting them to bed. It was like putting my ego to bed, and it worked. Before I knew it, I passed out.
So just being able to tell your mind, hey, like, let's just stay in the present moment. That was enough for you to just keep reiterating that, and then it kind of dropped the noise floor.
Yeah, 100%. It happened. It probably took a couple minutes, but it happened pretty significantly. And then I realized this is the whole thing where everyone always talks about, everyone in the woo-woo world, in the spiritual community, always talks about being present in the present moment. Like, I am being present. Like, you are this now. Nothing else matters other than this moment right here. And when you can appreciate what's happening here, it unfolds all these other things. I'm like, no wonder. It works also with sleep. It works with everything. We are worrying about the future or the past, things that either haven't happened yet or have already happened. That's not what's important. What's important is right now. And right now, it was sleep. That was very important.
It's such a crazy phenomenon. And what wound up happening to me was, so if you guys are familiar with the Gateway, is it called the
Gateway program?
The Gateway program. So a little
by the Monroe Institute.
The Monroe Institute. So this dude, Robert Monroe, creates this institute, and they essentially figure out this applicable process for generating different types of consciousness. So he actually has patents for using frequencies to alter states of consciousness, which is fascinating. So I was doing it, and by the way, the CIA has used this to train their Psi operatives. Like, you can look it up; they've declassified it. Not like weird woo-woo stuff. It's actually like legit stuff. Anyway, so I'm using this. I'm doing one of the tapes. I'm on wave 2 now, which is the second tape, I guess.
Yeah.
And so it's focus 12, and so you go from 10 to 12 and back to 10, and then I don't ever fall asleep. I have to go, okay, I'm going to go to sleep now. And I just slowly, whatever my process is, eventually I do fall asleep. But I was like blanked out for an hour. And then I remember hearing the start of 2 tapes later. And I was like, what's happening? And I have no idea what happened. But I was still very tired, but then I couldn't fall back asleep. And so then I kind of meandered about. But then that's when I went into my living room to like just change the environment.
Just to give a little more context on this. So the Robert, aka Bob, as we in the Gateway program know him as, he created this thing called hemisync. So he looked at the left and right hemispheres of the brain and realized they both need different tones to balance out. And so he's playing 2 different tones in your ear, which sound like want, and then all of a sudden it balances. And the logical and emotional sides of the brain come together, and you're able to look at things from a perspective that you haven't had before, because this emotional and logical are now balanced. And so in this, there's these different levels that you go through. And as you go through these waves, there's typically 6 tapes in a wave, and a wave would be like a level, if you will. And so Joe's in level 2 now.
Yeah.
And in these tapes, you go through and it helps you learn new things and you create new patterns. And then you're able to compile all these new skills that you're learning as you go through this journey. I've completed this and I've been pushing Joe to do it. I completed through wave 8 and I was thinking about restarting it at 2. So maybe I'll start it with you because I think it's really beneficial. It opens up a lot. But when you get to this point of this subconsciousness that you hit, where you're in this deep state of healing and then all of a sudden you don't know anything that happened, it's like your body is fully letting go of whatever it's holding on to, whatever that healing needed to be. It was like you were able to shut down a lot of your senses and let your subconscious mind kind of take over and like repair you.
And I what I assumed happened was, because I almost never remember my dreams. I shouldn't say that, because then I'm like reinforcing that principle. But something must have happened. I just literally don't remember. And usually when I have a breakthrough, it's in some level of there's cognition, but then it's also me being attached to this 3D reality. But I'm sure something happened. I felt like great after, but I was literally like, where was I? I was just gone. Which was strange because literally I'm not one of those people where if you turn a movie on, I never fall asleep.
Yeah.
I have to like get in my bed and like do my whole little thing, take my melatonin or magnesium and all that shit. And then like eventually I'll get tired and then I'll close my eyes, but then I don't fall asleep right away. It's like a thing. But I just passed the F out. It was wild.
Another cheat code to that for anyone that's done the gateway or they're interested, you should do one of the sleep tapes then. I think wave 1 has one.
Yeah, so, wave 1 has an explorative sleep tape and I was in the middle of it and I was like, oh my God. When you do there's this thing that you do where you imagine energy coming out of your head and up to your feet. So it's like this energy. If you guys have read the book Reality Transurfing, they also talk about this process. I think it must have been invented by the Monroe Institute. And I was like, oh, I feel good. I'm about to like go on this journey. And then my fucking phone went off and it was like, ba-ding. It was like, snap me out of it.
Yeah, that's the worst.
It sucked. So I'll have to go back and redo that. I hate going back because I want to go forward so bad, but you almost have to because you miss stuff.
You have to. I've listened to all those tapes multiple times. I wouldn't finish a wave without listening to at least the tapes twice through, each one twice through, and then I would go to the next wave.
Yeah, it's really my like, I want to like get me to the end.
Yeah, but that's the problem. Whenever you're rushing it, then you're not going to get it. I know this woman and she always talks about when she listens to certain healings, she'll play them at 2 times speed because she wants to like get on to the next thing. And while that makes sense, and I think a lot of people do that, like I listen to podcasts on 1.5 speed, sometimes we have to slow down and like give ourselves the chance to like take it all in. We can't rush everything. We have to be present. See? Presence.
Yeah, so, and I know you wanted to kind of correlate that with a couple things, and success was one of them, and just kind of being in like positive states of mind. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that. I do think that, and man, I'm what's funny is like I used to be the like science dude, and you kind of turn me on to a lot of the more esoteric stuff, which by the way, there's a lot of science to back up how manifestation works and things like that in the parts of your brain and consciousness and all that. I think it's finally now catching up that we have more young people in these sciences that are willing to kind of experiment with this stuff, and there's been more of an awakening. But I wish I didn't give so much backstory because I lost my train of thought.
It's okay, we'll come back to it.
Yeah,
but we have now moved from 3D to 5D, so everything will change. Just if you don't like change, well, you better buckle in.
Yeah,
a lot of change is happening. So actually, speaking of science, the thing I want to talk to you today was about frequency, and I was thinking about the frequency of success. And if we are really looking at business and spiritual and how they come together, this is perfect. And so frequency of success, if we're thinking about frequency, we know through science, quantum physics, that everything is made of energy. And if everything's made of energy, if this microphone, if this sofa, if my phone, all are made of energy, that means that they all have a frequency. So they all have a frequency, and we can either be attuned to some of those frequencies or not. Example, 3D to 5D. 3D is something tangible, something we can see and we're aware of. But as someone who is very aware of the 5D and has a lot of things coming in from the 5D often, it's the things that you can't explain, which don't make sense, that I think science has said, no, we don't want to worry about that. That's not like actually in our face. So we're going to just kind of pretend this isn't happening right now. But it is totally at the forefront, and God bless, because I'm here for it. I was thinking about, like, when you are in a good mood, everything goes your way. You know, you float through life, you float through the day. So-and-so gave me a free coffee, or I went to this place and this person was so nice to me. And you just feel like really happy about the day. And when you're in a bad mood, the same thing happens, right? Like, you're a little more grumpy. Oh, I stubbed my toe and then I couldn't get this and I spilled that, and all these things kept happening. And it's like you're perpetuating this feeling. And so if we are talking about frequency, when you wake up and you're in a bad mood or a good mood, you've already attuned yourself to the frequency of the certain vibration. And if we know, again, from quantum physics, that everything has a frequency and everything's vibrating at a certain level, then you're essentially going to call things in. And I know people they don't necessarily believe it, but when you're in a good mood, like, nothing can stop you. And when you're in a bad mood, everything can stop you. And so when we look at the highest vibration of love, it's like, highest vibration, it's love and compassion. And when we look at low vibration, we're talking about scarcity and fear and anxieties. And so it's really, really important to be aware of your frequency. And especially if you're looking for success, how do you keep your frequency high so that you can be a magnet for success? So I'm saying all of this because usually people are talking about the law of, what's it called? The law of attraction.
Yeah.
Thank you. The law of attraction. You know, we are what we want to attract. And while that's really important, I think the missing key sometimes is the law of resonance. Have you heard of this one?
I have, but I don't. I would love to,
to know more?
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now. So the law of resonance says you don't attract what you are, you don't attract what you want. The law of resonance says you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And so if your mindset, if you keep thinking, oh, I'm going to attract, let's use money as the example, because I think it's the thing everyone always wants. I want $1 million. You can't just go through the day like, I want $1 million, I'm $1 million, I can have $1 million, I have $1 million, going about the day saying I have $1 million, and yet you're looking at your bank statement, you're freaking out, you're not sure if you can afford something, or actions are moving in scarcity, but your words are saying another thing. Like, just because your words are saying, I want to be a millionaire, doesn't mean you're going to call in the $1 million. Because if you're not attuned to the frequency of the $1 million, then you're totally a mismatch. You have to be able to change this internal frequency, this internal dialogue that you have with who you are. And that allows you to call everything in. And I think that just gets really lost. And so society's like, manifesting, just say it out loud and then you're going to have it. But when you hear people talk about like feeling the feeling, that's really where the money's at. That's when you really start to call things in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really does. And I think where the law of attraction stops short, to your point, is the law of attraction, I believe, makes people wind up feeling more lack if they don't know the actual process. People are like, yeah, just like think about it, just attract it, just say it, just write it. You actually have to get to a place where you essentially are good with or without it, or live in a emotional state, which is a frequency of whatever the ideal self. So if you want $1 million, however you would feel if you had $1 million, you need to get as close or on that exact frequency, and that's when you call it in. It's like that saying where they're like, love finds you when you're not looking for it.
Yeah.
It's literally because you've essentially gone, I know I'm going to find it, but like it's not a priority and I'm just going to go about my life. Mm-hmm. And that calls it in because you're not worried about getting it and you know it'll eventually happen. And then it winds up coming faster. It's the pedestaling. It's the lack, like you were saying. But I still don't feel like I have a good process for that stuff. It's literally once I just release it. But
it's so hard. Yeah. I'm not saying this is easy by any means. I think it's really important for people to be aware that you can't just do one without the other. You can't just say, I'm $1 million. I'm going to have $1 million. I want $1 million without making yourself attuned to the frequency of the $1 million.
How do you believe it? Yeah.
Yeah. How do you believe it? That's really hard, especially if your environment is telling you things that are contradictory to the thing that you want. And so instead of maybe going so extreme to $1 million, if you only have $10 and then you keep saying, I'm going to have $1 million, it's never going to feel attainable. It's never going to be this thing that's actually something you can reach for. But maybe you could be like, I'm going to have $100. You could like lower the goalpost slightly to make it seem like something that you can get. And then when you do get money, you could get excitement. You show gratitude. I wrote a little list of things that you can do to try and increase your vibration because I was thinking about this exactly.
Nice.
And I thought the biggest thing is you want to just act like a signal and an antenna. Like you want your little antenna to be up so high that this frequency of the thing that you want can't miss you. And so if you want to do that, I think it really starts with awareness. Where are my thoughts at? How am I thinking? How am I going about the day? How are my actions not in alignment with the thoughts that I want to have? And so awareness, people discredit awareness all the time. I think they think it's just like this unnecessary step, but you can't make a change if you're not aware of something. Like I used to be fat and I didn't know I was fat because I didn't ever feel fat, even though I look at myself and I knew I was fat. Does that make sense?
That's so strange.
Like I would put clothes on. I wouldn't necessarily like the way my body looked, but as I moved throughout the day, I never felt that.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it until later when I became thinner and I lost weight. I was like, oh, my body does move differently than it did before, but I didn't know the difference because I'd been so used to this feeling in my body that I wasn't aware to be outside of it. So I am using this example because this is where awareness is so important. So if you're aware that like, oh, maybe I do think more negatively throughout the day. Maybe I am always pessimistic about things. Maybe I could just be a little more lighthearted and optimistic. It's like, that's it. That's like where the shift starts. Like, think of it like a little ember. You just want to like get a little spark, right? And you can't get a spark if you're not trying. So you got to try to be aware. And once you're aware, then you can start making shifts. And there's a million tools and a million different things that people are drawn to. Like Joe here, he really likes breath work. Breath work is a great thing. What you essentially want to do now is once you're aware of your thoughts, how do you bring your nervous system back to a state of zero? How do you bring yourself where you're getting triggered in certain areas back to a place where you're not triggered by them? And that's going to look different for every person. I can't give you a full example there, but one could be gratitude. One could be finding the happiness in the situation. Do you think of an example?
So you're saying, how do I take things off a pedestal, or how do I take things off of see the bright side of bad things?
Yeah, like if you can do either to try and level out so that you don't have a full raging desire for this thing where it's so out of reach and it's unattainable, but also it doesn't make you sad or upset. How do you go back to neutral? How do you get your status quo to this zero?
Yeah, and one thing that you brought up was the like tiers of, okay, I know my end goal is this $1 million, but that brings in what's called cognitive dissonance, where you have two beliefs, where you have this one belief where you're like, I want $1 million, and then this other belief is I can't get $1 million. And so it's much harder to reprogram a belief that is that far. It's like if you had $10, okay, so if $100 is exciting, then that's the new number. But if it's not exciting, then maybe it's 200. And so you're going to stress test. Like I do this law of assumption journaling. That's one of my methods, where I write things literally until I feel like I have them. But what I did the other day is I was setting my new income goal, which is 2K. And so I kept writing. I started 100. I'm like, that's not exciting. 150, 250, 3. And I kept writing between until one of the numbers, I just was like, that feels attainable, exciting, but not too much where I'm like, I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, because you can always increase the number. But if you start too high, you may never get to any number.
Yeah, it's much better it's like find a number that's exciting. This is just money specifically, but doesn't feel like too much. So a lot of that is setting your ceiling and your floor. So depending on how much money you have made, if you've made $1 million, that's your new floor. If you only ever made 50 grand, that's your floor. That's your ceiling essentially. And so, it's going to be based on what your comfortability is. And that's just by proof of concept. So if you've made a certain amount of money, it's very easy to believe you can make that money because you've literally done it. So that's why it's important not to stretch too far with manifestation. I think that's where people get lost in the sauce, especially I think a lot of people that talk about it. I don't want to say they don't know what they're talking about, but they have a limited understanding of, it's like The Secret. That's what gets people into it. And then they go, cool, that's everything. I just need to think about it.
Yeah, when it's so much bigger than
It's
that.
huge.
And what I'd also say for you to do when you're doing this law of assumption journaling is when you have a goal like that, whatever your goal is, you write that or something better, that or something more, or
Like
at least
the end of the
this.
sentence.
Yes.
I like that.
And so you're still making it attainable in your head, but you're
allowing...
giving the universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it, a chance to surprise you and give you more.
And it's exciting because then you can still not feel like you're limiting yourself.
Yeah, because oh, maybe I'll get pleasantly surprised and I will get something more. So there's a million ways to increase your vibration and to increase your frequency. Another thing that I've been really talking about a lot more is hertz. So there's certain tones that you can play and that will naturally increase the vibration around you. And two specific ones are 432 hertz and 528 hertz. 528 hertz, my understanding is it's more when you're a little more relaxed, you're going for a deeper meditation or healing or sleeping.
More theta, where 432 is alpha.
That sounds right. Yeah. I have no idea. Quantum physics can tell us. I have no idea. Yeah. But again, quantum physics, science, not just me, science.
Actually, just to give you some backing on that,
yeah.
I read a study and they tested patients or study people with, they used 432 hertz and that they saw that there was a correlation between an increase in, I forget what it was, but it was something positive. It was a higher increase in alpha state, which also led to more concentration and more low reduction in anxiety.
1,000%. Actually, sometimes, I all the times actually talk to the plants. I have a lot of plants here. It's like a jungle. And I talk to them all the time. But sometimes they talk to me. And I swear on Saturday, which is watering day, they were like, I could just hear sidebar. I decided I need to change the energy in the apartment now that I've switched my whole life up and I'm on this new journey, and I wanted to move all the plants around, and plants are living things, so they are actual energy, right? They are frequency. There's this guy on TikTok, he has this machine and he has this tiny little clip and he puts it on the leaf of a plant and then it plays tones.
What?
Oh my
wait. So
God.
the plant
because plants
communicating via math, which essentially can be turned into tones.
Yeah, he has this machine that he puts this little clip on a leaf or on the plant, and then he can hear the frequency, and the frequency sound like these little songs.
Does asking it questions or talking to it change the frequency, or does they just have a consistent one?
I don't know that I've ever seen him ask a question, but he does just play it, and you hear this this beautiful little fairy song that you've never heard before.
God, that's incredible.
But it reminds me of the tones that are played at 432 or 528. So I made these long form playlists so that I can have them on for 7 hours at a time in the house. And so when I was repotting all the plants and moving them all around the house, I put them all in one group and I was like, okay guys, we're gonna get new homes. Again, I was talking to them and I kept hearing oh no, put more of the hertz on. As we're going through this whole process of repotting and growing, we need this music back on. And so I put it back on. Everyone seems really happy. Actually, I have this Monstera behind the camera. He used to be squished, and he's grown twice his size in days. It's incredible.
What?
Yeah, he was very...
That plant?
Yeah, he was tight and this, and now...
Oh, yeah. It was more in and up.
Opened up. And there's all these new leaves. And I swear it's because he's got a new pot, new light, and new energy.
For sure, 'cause he's got more. How much bigger was the pot?
It was a very similar size. It was just slightly bigger.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't explain that. That had to be from the hertz. Which, it's funny because that shit sounds woo-woo AF, but I guarantee you, if you Googled it, there's probably I'm such a curious person, and I think my desire to know why is, it was always bad in business. It was it doesn't fucking matter. Just do what you need to do. Just do it. And I was well, why? It doesn't make sense. And that got me in so much trouble when I was a kid in school, and then eventually I learned the world of stay in your lane when I worked for a 500 company. And people are we just don't have time for your inquisitions, sir.
Yeah. He's got a curious mind.
Yeah, very curious. But it's very good for just stuff like this because it helps my brain go, okay, well, that's proven by science, or, oh, that makes sense. So I bet you there's studies about this, about playing frequencies and its ability to affect plant growth.
There's definitely studies. I didn't look up any of them, so I'm not prepared.
Well, it's I wish I was more able to just be I have this evidence. It is just from my vantage point, and that's all that I need. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, that's
should
how
be
I
enough.
operate.
Yeah, that should be enough. Like, you were literally experiencing in reality. I'm now noticing that plant is larger. Just I like never paid attention to it.
Yeah.
It looks like it's gone like more this way.
Yeah, he's just spread out.
Yeah, spread out. Spread.
But if plants are doing it, we're doing it. So a lot of times I'll play the hertz in the house.
Yeah.
And then I might be listening to a book or a podcast or something else on top of it. And I just keep the hertz volume super low because it's frequency, it's vibration. I don't need to hear it for my body to resonate with it. And that's the coolest part about this.
I started doing this and I get in the morning, I play the 432 in my office and I get so locked in. Like I'll be like, I remember I was like, why am I so focused today? I always ask myself what's
musical
different. And that was the only change. Swear to God. But I wasn't just like Adderall locked in. I was like excited and like enjoying what I was doing.
Yeah, because it increases your frequency.
Yeah.
And it brings you to the vibration of love.
Really?
Yeah.
The
and
432 does specifically?
Yes. That's why I think that one's the heavy hitter. And
that's the best one.
If we, like, I try to live my life, I'm human when I can. I try to be very aware and come from a place of love in terms of everything I'm doing. How am I interacting with people? How am I showing up in the world? Am I coming from a place of love? I'm Greek Italian, so like some days I can't. You know, there's like certain moments where I get a little spicy, but for the most part, like, how do you come from a place of love? And when you're coming from a place of love or like sitting in the vibration resonance of love, everything's easier. You're kinder, you're softer, you're actually smarter because the ego's not coming in. You're not freaking out about things. You're not overly obsessing about things. You're able to be present, back to presence. And then your frequency just increases and you become a beacon for the things that you want. And it's true, like you become a true beacon. And so some of the other things I thought were honorable mentions is obviously meditation, movement, like moving your body, allowing yourself to like get up and walk and not being so stagnant because you are also energy. Like we already learned, we're all energy. And so when you are sitting, you become stagnant. You sit in a stagnant type of energy, but you're moving, things start happening for you. You know, like, you know, these people that are like movers and shakers and like stuff's always happening for them. And then, you know, these other people that just sit on the sofa or behind a computer all day and they're very grumpy. It's like there's often a correlation between the two. People that are stagnant are not always the happiest.
It's crazy you mentioned that. Just to add my color commentary here. So what I've started doing is whenever I get stuck, and because I sit at my computer for the majority of the day doing, you know, computer shit.
Yeah, I mean, same.
If the stuckness lasts like multiple minutes, I don't know, 3 to 5, maybe more, but I literally just get up and just start doing busy work, like being a busybody. Like, can I organize this? Can I throw this away?
Yeah.
Can I wash this dish? And like the generation of movement, and I think a lot of it too is repetitive tasks take you out of this negative feedback loop where you just kind of go blank slate again. And I didn't necessarily think it was the momentum of actual energy from my physical body moving, but that makes so much sense because I've started to have these breakthroughs. This is kind of a dumb example, but I needed to get rid of some furniture. My house started to feel cluttered, and I was like, why do I have so much? I have 4 desks. I had 4 fucking desks. I was like,
in one office?
Well, 2 in one office, 1 in my room, 1 like in another room. And I'm like, why do I have 4 desks? It was like, well, that desk has that monitor stand on it that like it only fits on that desk. So you can't get rid of that one. And I was like, but I don't use that desk. And I got like overwhelmed. And then I just started doing busy work. And then finally the momentum generated. I was like, fuck it, get rid of that desk. Took the thing off. I put the monitors out of sight, which I could have done at any moment over the last year. And I got rid of the desk and I felt so much better, but it can work with I don't know. It works with a lot of things, but that was my most recent example where I was blocked and just literally getting up and moving helped.
Well, it's like Feng Shui. The principles of Feng Shui are about how's the energy in the room moving. And you don't have to believe that, but it's true. I remember another sidebar, Janet Jackson. Remember? Okay, she was like pop star in the 80s, 90s, whatever it was. And then she became irrelevant. Not Janet Jackson. Shoot. Okay, this is where I'm the worst because I don't remember anybody famous. So this woman, I'm gonna keep talking about her and then you'll probably remember who she is. She was on one of those TV shows that was like the voice and the singing, one of those first shows. Kelly Clarkson.
Okay.
What was that show with Kelly Clarkson?
Voice?
No, it was.
America.
Yeah,
America's
something about America.
It's not America's Got Talent.
Okay, people are probably screaming it, but
What's
I want to
my
say LaToya
grandparents?
Jackson, but that's not her. Anyway,
But it was before Kelly Clarkson. You're saying
it was like Kelly Clarkson time, and it was Randy Jackson and Simon Cowell, and then the woman, she's like an old singer.
crap.
Do you want to love me? You gonna love me?
Shit. And she like got addicted to pills and went to rehab.
Really?
She had that song that was like, "We been together 'cause
Anyway, well, whoever this lady is,
Oh, she's
everyone will
driving me
know.
nuts.
We'll figure it out
Tip my
later.
fucking tongue.
Yeah, as soon as we turn the camera off, I'll remember. That's how it works for me. But she was saying that she wanted to get relevant again. She wanted her career to take off, and she hired this woman to come in the house and do feng shui.
Really?
Yeah, and she had done all these things, and she was like, there's a big metal plate under this, and I have a water feature in that corner. I remember hearing this video and being like, oh, this is interesting. And she said that's why she took off, and that's how she got on that.
America's Got Talent.
Yeah, it's not that, whatever that is.
It's gonna drive me nuts.
I could just look it up, but
Ryan Seacrest.
yeah, American Idol.
American Idol. Yes.
And her name's not Janet, but it's like
No,
that.
it's like Tina or Paula Abdul.
Paula.
Yes, you got
God
one. I
bless
got
America.
one. Let's go. Yes.
Okay, we did it.
Fuck yeah.
Takes a village. So Paula Abdul said she accredited her whole career take off with American Idol to having this person come in and change the feng shui of her house because it was all set up incorrectly because she wanted the energy to be good. So,
What would you say to
very
people who say
basic
that that's just
woo woo.
placebo?
I don't know. Quantum physics. I'm sure they could come in here and be like, well, the energy of the room is flowing differently.
Oh, that's a good point.
Also, why do we think we know better than this medicine that's been around for thousands of years?
Yeah, why do we are so distasteful of Eastern medicine?
We're so egocentric. That's why.
Well, I also think too, if someone's like, well, that's just placebo, like who fucking cares? Like if it worked, like she went from being nobody to being so fucking famous.
If
like,
it worked, it
if
worked.
it literally, yeah, if it was a placebo, fine. But I'm pretty sure that there is actual science behind this if you studied it.
Yeah.
If we went in there with a frequenometer, I don't know what a frequency, we don't talk about.
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, but who cares if it was a placebo? They've cured cancer patients, terminal cancer patients with sugar pills because their minds believed it was real.
Because your mind is very powerful, and probably because they were at the frequency of I'm going to heal myself.
Yes.
They're like, fuck you, I got this.
They just needed an external
Hold my
thing
beer.
to validate. Hold my beer.
Yeah.
Hold my beer. I'm fucking healing
I'm going to
this.
heal this. So, mini feng shui tip, if you are interested and you are curious about this, just make sure your doorways and windows are clear. So you don't want anything up against a window or a doorway necessarily because it doesn't let the energy come in or flow through. You also don't, like your bed, you don't want your bed to be facing a doorway or a
Like you don't
window.
want it to back up to the doorway?
You don't want like the foot of your bed to be by the doorway because if the energy, let's say, imagine the energy is coming in through a door or a window, it's going to boom, hit your bed. You don't want that. You want energy to flow through a room. You don't want it to get stuck and cornered into you. You want energy to come in and go out very easily.
So, okay. So my room is if I'm laying in my bed, it's in the middle of the room. The door is over there, but it's like on this wall. And then there's a window to the left.
When the door swings open, does it swing open to your bed?
It swings open to the wall.
That's
so it's
good.
Like door and then.
But if you're looking through the door, is there a way from the door to the window? Is there like a path of energy is there a path that energy could flow? I guess.
Yeah, it's like there's a whole area like right here to the window.
Then that's perfect.
Oh, okay, good. I was like, oh shit, I gotta flip my bed around.
You're great.
I always thought you didn't want the headboard on the wall with the door, so that would.
I think that's fine as long as I'm not an expert. Look this up. Maybe ask ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure that when you're going when the door opens, the energy has a way of escaping essentially out of the window.
So it can flow.
Yeah, you
So
don't want
it to be trapped.
Actually, the way my bed is set up is incorrect. See how the door is next to the bed. So when you open the door, my bed's right there because the room's small. There's not really a lot of options.
Yeah, we're in the city of Chicago, so
it's
the bedrooms are
technically not the right thing. And I'm sure if I changed it, something in my life would open up.
Yeah, you should honestly experiment with that. Like
Yeah.
move it and see what happens.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. You're strong. You can help me.
So Paula Abdul feng shui's her house.
Yes.
And
So
then,
the other thing is like considering the frequency and the feng shui of all this, right? Or the energy in the room. The other thing I think is really important is like, who are you hanging out with? What's the company you're keeping? I had this one client and she became my favorite very quickly because I just saw a lot of parallels in myself and her. And she was in this cycle where she was really stuck. Her family was really negative, and she found herself being really negative, and she spent a lot of time with them, and she was just picking up their energy, and she constantly was grumpy, and she realized like the grumpiness wasn't necessarily hers. It was these people that she was surrounding herself in, because you do pick up on other people's energy, especially if you're a little more empathic. And I don't even know if people are aware that they are empathic sometimes, which means you're able to essentially hold on to somebody else's energy. So if you're in a bad mood, I might be in a bad mood. If you're in a good mood, I'm in a good mood.
Sure.
Our energy should be independent of other people. But if it is dependent on other people, because we're going back to awareness, then maybe you need to spend less time with them, or you need to shrink the amount of time that you're spending with them. How does that look for you?
One thing that what's funny is, and we're both your Greek Italian family, my family's Italian, half of them. But Italian humor is essentially making fun of everything, like talking shit about everything. It's like, this fucking guy, and like what's that famous dude? Oh God, I can't think of anything. The Italian comedian that's really funny.
Sebastian.
Sebastian Maniscalco. And he's just like, this fucking guy. Like that's like Italian humor, and so I'm really good at making fun humor and like being kind of like just negative about stuff, but it's like hilarious. But I actually had to take a good look at that and be like, oh, that was literally how I was socialized growing up, because that was kind of like how we would kind of like get with each other and talk and stuff like that. And there's a big desire for people, because at our core, our cavemen selves, being socially accepted, being part of the group is actually a survival instinct. And so back in the day, there was no like death sentence, there was no prison. It was the worst sentence was getting exiled from your social group, because you would essentially die. So being socially accepted, and a big part of this, I think the frequency is a huge part of it, but it's also we want to fit in. And so if a group condones itself in a certain fashion, then we need to adhere to that at our like caveman core. And if it's not positive, if it doesn't serve us, if your goal is just to be part of the group and have a normal life, fine. But if you want to be exceptional and you want to feel good, sometimes you have to break out of that group. Like I've had to leave groups like when I was a big partier. It wasn't a group that I could be around if I wanted to like clean my life up, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, you hear, if you want to have certain status in life, if you want to like grow in your business, if you want to be successful, you need to surround yourself with successful people. You'll start leveling yourself up. If you want to play pool and you want to be a good pool player, you have to play against someone that's better than you. It will force you to be better. Like you figure out how to be better.
Yeah, there's no stimulus to grow if you're winning.
Yeah. And it's just, if you are aware of this, you'll see it happens in all areas of life. And back to the other thing you were saying about like how Italians razz each other. I love that. Like I love making fun of people. I like when people make fun of me. I think it's really funny. A lot of times I used to say, I'm so dumb. Like if I forgot something, let's say I forgot something upstairs, I'm so dumb. And I realized like, no, I got to stop saying that. I really am reaffirming to myself, like, you are dumb, which isn't true. I was just not thinking. I wasn't aware. I was distracted. I wasn't dumb, but this is the kind of verbiage. And so if you grow up in a household where everyone puts themselves down, even when they're joking.
Self-deprecating humor is hilarious, but it's subconsciously harmful. Yeah. And what you're saying, probably a month ago, I stumbled on this. And so it's like, God, you fucking idiot. But it's more like that thing you did was dumb, not I'm dumb. And so like we do dumb things, we do smart things, but doing a dumb thing doesn't make you dumb. And doing a smart thing doesn't mean you're a genius forever, because it's like you'll kind of float in the middle. But if you're watching this, you're probably a higher level intelligence person. But that's huge. And I have this thing I think about: the universe always says yes, and your subconscious mind always says yes. And so if you program things enough times, even if you don't think you're dumb, but you say I'm dumb enough times, you'll start to feel dumb and start reinforcing it.
Yeah, I totally agree. So my challenge is to not poo-poo awareness. Really just try and be aware. Like I just challenge you to like be aware, because once you are aware, you're like, I have so many thoughts throughout the day, and a lot of them aren't in the direction that I would want them to go. If I could like type myself a little script for the day, it probably isn't in the direction that you'd want to go. And then also trying to shift your focus back to the positives if there are negatives, very hard. It is way harder than anticipated. So don't knock it till you try it.
The shifting from the negative to the positive?
Yeah.
Yeah. It can be. I think I'm trying to think of what I do to help with that. Oof. Yeah. It's hard to catch yourself in the moment. Sometimes you literally just have to stop yourself. Going from like negative 100 to positive 100, it's better to just try to get it in neutral.
Yeah. This is why energy healing also works. Humble brag.
Yeah, 100% does.
Yeah. So frequency, success, they go hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm good. I have nothing else to share.
Awesome. Yeah, so guys, thank you so much for listening, or if you're watching, for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and if you have any questions, leave a comment. We'd love to hear what you're currently working on, which will help inspire us for future episodes, as well as we can give you some guidance if we can provide some help to you as well. Yeah, have an amazing day. Take care. Peace.
Bye.